Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome to another one of my episodes. This is my cat Moo. She won't let me get any work done, and I'm going to try to get rid of her, but she probably will keep coming back. Anyways, I thought there is a little bit of value talking about what made me believe that I needed a consultation and what eventually helped me realize that I was a diabetic. So prior to becoming a diabetic, prior to knowing and getting diagnosed that I'm a diabetic, what had occurred was that I was trying to lose weight. I didn't really notice that I was losing weight, but my mom and people around me were like, hey, you're losing weight. And I'm like, I'm not eating better, I'm not doing anything different, so how could I possibly be losing weight? So one of the things that was being noticed was that I was losing weight, and secondarily, what was going on was I was getting bouts of athlete's foot, and it just wouldn't go away. It was like chronic sores between my toes, and it just, I'd wash it over and over again. I was using over-the-counter antifungals, but eventually go away, but it would take weeks and weeks rather than a couple of days. The other thing that was going on was I was blacking out every now and then. I'm a dentist, as some of you may know. When I was operating using a surgical microscope, there were times where I would get very, very dizzy. And at first I thought it was probably because I was moving in and out of the microscope. But blacking out, that was definitely not normal, and I should have, caught it, considering I was a healthcare professional. I still am. But it didn't really ring any bells in my head. And I thought, I was just overly tired. The other thing that was going on was extreme thirst. This almost sounds like classic diabetes that, we study in school about. But when it happens to you, you just don't connect the dots. So I was very thirsty, and the thirst that I'm talking about, it's not like normal thirst. It's like you have this urge to just drink, and you just don't stop drinking. You just need to drink and drink and drink, and you could sometimes feel your belly completely filled with water, but yet you're still thirsty. And of course, with that comes the peeing. And at first it's like, wow, I never used to drink a lot of water, and now I'm drinking a lot of water, and drinking water is a good thing. So a combination of all these things, eventually led me to think, hey, I'm probably becoming a diabetic. But, I was young, I wasn't really overweight. I was probably about 185, 186. I'm 5'11 and a half. I always add that half to my height because I believe that's an important half. So, being not overweight, at first I thought it was probably because of stress from work and overworking, and that's why I'm feeling all those symptoms. But that eventually led me to the doctors to get further tests done, which eventually led to the diagnosis that I was, in actuality, a type 2 diabetic. I want you to know that if you're watching this video, you're probably a type 2 diabetic like myself, or if you're probably newly diagnosed, or you're probably trying to find information about diabetes online. I can tell you that diabetes comes in many different forms. The symptoms that I had described, many of them are classic, but nonetheless, you don't have to fall within the classic symptoms. You may have no symptoms at all, and therefore it's very critical that when you have your annual checkup, that your physician do a hemoglobin A1C. Recently, with the hospital group that I go to, Partners, it's pretty much mandated that everyone get a hemoglobin A1C, but in the past that's not something that was done routinely. And one symptom that I forgot to mention was that my vision. When I was operating, I had to move my eyes and my head a little bit further away from the surgical site because I was having trouble focusing on items that were very, very close to my visual field. So I hope this helps in terms of giving you more information as to some of the signs, which is what is observable by others, and symptoms, which is what I felt when prior to being diagnosed. And like I said, just because you have some of these symptoms or you're lacking some of these symptoms, it doesn't mean you're diabetic or you're not. It's always good that when you are experiencing changes to seek proper medical attention rather than try to self-diagnose. And for those of you folks who are diabetic, I'm sure a lot of these signs and symptoms that I'm talking about are familiar with you. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll subscribe, and I'll continue to share my experience as to how diabetes has affected me and how I eventually got it under control.